there were two things that I hard believed when I was younger about aging. Number one, I had a picture of I had to do like everybody else and just frantically work hard through my 30s and 40s, and that by the time I got to 60, I would just be tired and I wouldn't want to do it anymore, and I'd kind of float away in the sunset, you know. The other thing I thought that is, if I missed it in my 40s, if I didn't get it, then I was done. I'd be washed up and it was over and I missed my chance. And I so hard believe those things. And I don't think I'm alone. When this podcast airs in another week, I'll turn 60. So we're going to talk about these. Is 60 the new 40, or is it time just to float into the sunset? I'm David Magee. This is the David Magee Show. There's no better way to dig in on this one than have my wife, who's known me since I was 18 years old. and that's a little scary. And I'm both sorry and thankful. And she is my wife, Kent Magee. It's all in your court, so I'm turning 60. Today, you get to interview me.
Well, thank you for the opportunity. Happy birthday.
Thank you.
It's coming soon. And yeah, it is a milestone. 60 is one of those big ones that hopefully you'll pause and, you know, have some time for reflection. But, you know, just thinking, I've heard you say your 60s, which I have known you since you were 18 years old.
Ugh.
Which is
a little scary, a lot
it's scary, but it's amazing. You know, most people I don't feel like meet their spouse at that age.
Right.
And we didn't become exclusively dating at that age, but we were still very young married. And so I feel like we always say we kind of grew up together. And,
which is fun, by the way.
It is.
It was hard at times, but it's fun, by the way, that we got to grow up
it's
together.
Not right for everybody, but it was right for us.
Right.
And, but yeah, so I've gotten to be a bystander to watch your transformation. And I've transformed too. You know, we look back and think we're different people than we were,
right.
You know, basically the same on the inside, but still like we've grown and we're very much different people from our experiences and just the aging process. And I've gotten to be a bystander to watch your transformation, and it is exciting, and I'm very proud of you now. Because, you know, we've had some hurdles, we've had some falls that have happened during our relationship, and, you know, the easiest thing is just when you're really down and knocked down is just to stay down and maybe pivot and go a totally different direction. But you know, I think it speaks a lot to who you are and your strength and determination that you have, you know, you've taken a second chance and, you know, here you are and you say like, you feel like, and I see it, you're in the peak of what you hope to accomplish with your life, with relationships, with your career, with your purpose on this earth. You know, I feel like more and more as time passes, you become more clear and focused on what your purpose is.
I don't think I even had one before.
No, and I know, and it's easy to do. And you said like, is 60 the new 40? That's kind of funny. I mean, I wonder what it is that we put so much pressure on ourselves in the 40s.
It's ugly.
I think of my grandmother that I was very close with, and with both of them, but one of them, I remember her always telling me that your 40s are the best years of your life. She said hers were, that my 40s were, you know, that was just the best years of our life because they married, she and my grandfather married young, and during the Depression in the early 30s, didn't have two pennies to rub together, you know, and I remember her telling stories about going in the kitchen in the morning and half of the loaf of bread was gone because the mice had all eaten it. And, you know, it was just, that's what I'm sure everybody at that time was experiencing a lot of the same. But, my grandfather went on and actually had a lot of financial success. He was an extremely hard worker. And
a lot of that came later in life for him, right?
yes, later, I think about in their 40s, and it is, things got easier for her, I think, at that season in her life. And it's just, you could finally exhale and feel like, you could enjoy your children and the things around you. And so I think that's where she was coming from. But I look back, my 40s, those were not the best years of my life.
I'm so sorry.
It was just
traumatic.
She's from the day I turned 40 until I think came the day I turned 50.
Actually, even though right at the age of, but in our late 40s, we began to get a glimmer of the light. But then you remember, it was exactly 10 years ago this week that we're recording. We'd finally gotten a glimmer of light. And I call you and go, "Oh, I'm sorry. I have cancer."
Yeah.
And the doctor says, "Yeah, this is not good. This is not good. I'm sorry to tell you this." But we'd been through so much, we kind of didn't have time for it.
Right.
We're like, "Oh yeah, whatever. I don't know. Cut me up, do whatever you got to do. We're going to move on." And I just kept saying, "I have to get back to work." And I was like counting the days. But so late in our 40s, we began to get a glimmer of light. But then right at 49, boom, that happened. And I did wonder, what will our 50s be like? But they've been good, and they've been phenomenal. Let me be honest. Let me be more clear than good. Yeah, it's been a journey. And now when you come to an intersection like this, and we're both essentially the same age, I'm just beating you there, 60, it's a big one. And how and where I go, how and where we go from here, a lot of it is decision. And some things you don't have a decision on, of health that may come your way or whatnot, but even how you address that, you do have a decision. And so here we go. You get to ask me the questions today. I'm just the guest.
Well, and I agree. I think we're like, you're about to turn 60. I just turned 59, so we're both wrapping up our 50s. I would tell my grandchildren that my 50s have been the best years
Agreed.
of my life, for sure. We finally, rebuilt our lives the way we want them, created the life that we want, and I love my life.
Yes.
And, we're still working on ourselves, both of us. Like people say, and I've heard a lot, the best thing you can do for your marriage is work on yourself. And,
exactly.
And still work on our marriage. We do that too, in counseling and just trying to be really mindful. We know from pain from the past, if we don't pay attention to things like that important to us, that, where it can lead. So how do you feel like, you said you experienced second chances, like you feel like you're living a second chance, in our marriage, you are a second chance at your career. I mean, when did that hit, that you felt like you're really thriving in your second chance? And how do you not take that for granted?
Yeah. And so it's funny that once all the way back to 2011, when I made a decision, I can't live like this. My family can't live like this. I have two choices: cut and run and start over, or go back in and face it all and start over. And what I wanted was the thing that I always wanted. So I wanted to go back, and I knew it wouldn't be easy, and it wasn't. But the thing is, the minute I got back, even though it was hard, and even though I had a lot of growth ahead, and we still had a lot, and with the family had a lot, and professionally I had a lot, I would say that even though it was so difficult, and there's some micro parts of that still remain, even though it was so difficult, I felt almost immediately like the gift of a second chance and felt better. And I remember thinking, I don't have the answers, and I'm still lost in those early days of it to a degree, but I felt like I'm where I belong, and I was giving myself a second chance. So my feeling as I finally had arrived in my life, it's the first time I ever had that, because it's the first time I realized I'm in charge here. I am in charge. The world is not in charge of me. Anything done to me is not in charge of me. Anything I have done to others is not in charge of me. I'm in charge here. And I found a lot of freedom in that. And so after that, it's just a journey of growth. And I'm still on it, and I've still been searching for it. But I would say it happened immediately. It doesn't mean I felt wonderful every minute, but it felt freeing immediately because I had the choice and I was willing to do it despite everything and anything people said. And they said plenty, but that's okay. It was well deserved. But I was very comfortable in my choice.
Right. You know, Anne Lamott, that's one of my favorite authors and just thinkers. I guess some people might think she's slightly theologian, but she has a saying that everything belongs. And you can look back at the things that happened, your failures, your things that you might think, you know, why did this happen? Traumas, whatever, you know. But she says everything belongs. And it's true. It makes you who you are. You know, it shapes who you are. We wouldn't be the people we are now if we had the easiest, smoothest, never a ripple or a challenge. But with that in mind, like if you were given this golden ticket, one thing that you could do over,
Yeah.
what would you do over?
Yeah, for me, there's a lot of things I would do over, but they were ripple effects from. I wouldn't have at a young age, and even though I stopped for a very long time in years, I just still wouldn't have started misusing alcohol. And that's not even the thing, right? It's so funny that, you know, for me, my greatest recovery, you know this, I think you know this, but podcast is a good place to say it. People that know me, certainly in recovery circles, knows. I mean, look, and it's hurtful, I know, even to hear it still, but for me, the greatest regrets and all are around infidelity and things that how I hurt you and, you know, myself and my family. But the thing is, that's the number one thing. For a lot of years, alcohol, and substances never, it wasn't even, it was a very manageable, it was barely, a lot of years when I was in my 20s, and it was not even a part of my life really, right? And so, but the problem is that I had so many internal weaknesses. The alcohol wasn't my weakness. It's the self-medication I did, right? And I understand that now, and I can articulate it. So it's not the thing, but that's the thing that I would do over, because it helped me get to a cycle of shame into things and positions that I wouldn't have done, where I didn't respect myself. And then when you have that, you have a big problem. If you have that combined with other interior, weak foundation that you're still trying to figure out, what is my foundation, which is common for young people. And so that's what I tell young people all the time. It's like, sure, it's not the substance. Parents go, well, I don't think they really have a problem, but they keep going back to it. I was like, well, see, that's the thing. Maybe it's not their core issue, but they're using it as a distraction. And so for me, even now today, it's still not alcohol per se. That's not even the biggest thing I'm in recovery from. And so that's why I don't really like talking about X days or this. look, I'm for anybody that does it. It's not my story, and I won't talk about it because it's not even really the thing. The thing is, I began a journey in 2011 into recovery, frankly, for something that was so much bigger than that. And I have to play the game, talking the alcohol game and this and that, because that's what the world wants to hear. But the truth of the matter is, now I've earned my stripes to this point to just talk about it in a bigger picture. And that's what the bigger picture is. At 59, I literally, if it's in there, maybe it is. I just don't have that hole anymore. I know it because I used to have it and I knew I had it, even if I denied it. But today, I know I don't have it. Doesn't mean I'm perfect and unflawed and don't have, you know.
So you're saying where it appears on the outside, maybe that David has fixed his alcohol problem. What the true story is, you fixed your soul, your soul problem.
I fixed my soul. All is well with my soul, and all was unwell with my soul. Right. I was very restless, and the truth is, I had a soul problem. I didn't have an alcohol problem, but my regret is actually related to that, because what happened is it more tangled my troubled soul.
Right.
And I think if I had not started on that journey and gone back there, I would have been able more quickly to figure things out.
Right. Well, I have heard you many times say, and I'm sure our children or people around you, because I've heard you say it more than once, in past years, you always would say, longevity is not my goal.
Right.
My goal is not to live to be 100.
I've
My goal is
obsessively
not
said
to live
that.
to be 90. I just want to have a good life. I don't want to have a long, drawn-out illness. We both lost parents through some, long, drawn-out illness, and of course, that's what everybody would choose. But you've said that, and then
my joke is always what everybody says: put a
here
pillow
we are,
on me. Right?
Like you're about to be 60, and we're what we feel like is, the prime or a very happy time in our life, and the dynamic has changed. We now have 6 grandchildren.
Yes.
The oldest is 7. The baby is 6 months.
Yes.
And they're a huge part of our life. I mean, we love them more than
so much.
Words can describe. And so since our dynamic has changed, we were talking about this just last night. You want to have a solid relationship and be a part of their lives, and for them to be engaged and have a relationship with their grandfather and grandmother, and learn from them and have conversations like I do, that I am now at this age, and I'm still thinking back of things, my experiences with my grandparents, or things they taught me, and values that they had.
Yes.
Things I learned from just their model, and they weren't perfect. I mean, I well know everybody was human and not perfect, but I know you want to be that with ours, and that changes. Do you feel like that's changed your shift of, well, actually now I need a little bit more of a stretch of time? So even with,
I do need
with
some more
Ida,
time.
our little 6-month-old,
Yeah.
you can be part of her life and up through her teens, that she, to teach
So
her.
I'm not ready to go yet. Okay, I'm not ready to go yet, and I don't think it's my time yet. I know, when the doctor was telling me how bad the cancer was a decade ago this week, when I went and had part of me cut off. Now, the end of the story goes, soon the doctor was saying, wait, I'm not sure it is that bad, and it wasn't, and here I am 10 years later, healthier than I've ever been. But that at that time, I think, really got me saying a lot of that I needed more time, and I wasn't interested in longevity. I have to tell you, I'm still not, and meaning I'm not ready to go. My time is not now, and I hope not even. Look, I was at the gym this morning in my 59th year, early in the morning. I certainly pay attention to health. I go to the doctor. I pay attention to what the doctor tells me back. So I've done some things in my life to say I value longevity. So I think those words speak pretty clearly. However, my point in all of it is that when my soul became well, I'm okay. And I don't need to punch my clock for a whole lot of years. I don't have that fear. When my time comes, I'll be okay to go. What I realized is it was more about what our grandchildren and those who know me can say of who I was and how I impacted them. And a power higher than me will determine when my time is to go, but that's not really my deal. I will do my job to take care of myself. And if I wake up one morning at 68 and that's the end, or 62 or 85, I'm good with that. But I realize that the value, when I struggled, my family struggled. And when my family and children struggled generationally, my angst was hurling a nuclear bomb within my family that could last for generations. And I'll be honest, sometimes it's not even for a person going through major mental health crisis. And look, somebody can't help it. It's a disease. It's real. There are things you can do, but meaning there's something real happening. It's not just some simple decision of, I'm going to wreak havoc on my family. It's much deeper and more complicated than that. But even family members, when they have mild mental health issues and they're kind of a tornado within a family of, you do this and you do that, and it has such impact on others, and it can spiral through. For me, I had been that person for too long, that how I woke up in my mood, and it had such a tone that it set within my family, that I realized what's important is who I am and how I am, and working on that foundation and strength and being able to fertilize that within the family, and also in the work I do, being very reliable, very consistent, not blaming others, not going to others and going, you, me, taking responsibility. And when I do that, when the time comes to go, it'll be fine.
Right. Well, back to that saying that everything belongs, it does. Our experiences make us who we are. And, just as it was the hand we were given, I feel like we have had a little bit, at this age, more experience with death up close than some people, perhaps. Not everybody, but to some.
We still have some friends at our age that haven't even seen their parents pass.
Right, both, like your parents, your adoptive parents that raised you, have both passed away.
Long gone.
Both of my parents, and then
your sister,
and the experience that I got to have with both, which I was 28 when my dad died of cancer, and it was home and hospice care, and I was sitting beside him in our living room when he took his last breath. And
in his 50s, yeah.
And he was in his 50s. And then also, when my mother passed from Alzheimer's, she was having hospice care, and I was sitting at her bedside when she drew her last breath. So, like, witnessing it. And then my sister died of cancer in her 50s. And I was with her the day before she died, and that whole weekend. And then, of course, burying our son when at the age of 23. All those experiences that we've had, I feel like definitely I have such a real, and I wonder if you do too, concept of death. And it's not,
absolutely.
I've come to that, you saying that longevity was not your goal. You're good. When your time came, you're ready to pass, and I see how sometimes I just scratch my head, like in our society, death is so, like, it's taboo, it's feared, it's like it's like we close our ears. I don't want to think about that or talk about that. And everybody is in such a
They're all trying to avoid the one thing that's inevitable.
It's like so like in denial that they're ever going to age, get older, have their, if there's only two things for certain in life. I mean, your first breath, the moment you come out of your mother's womb, to the last breath you draw, whatever age that might be, it's a set amount of period of time. We are here temporarily, and when you can like be okay with that concept,
yes,
and know, and then you transition to, this is what I believe, you transition to the next place. And I'm a Christian, and I believe I will be in what the Bible describes as heaven. I'll be reunited with family members, and I truly believe that. And it's something to look forward to. It's not something to fear as much. And
when you get there, I think it frees you to just go find your purpose in their life, because when you understand that and you look at, I mean, this is so cliche, but the oldest thing it's written so many times is that people, doctors that talk to people on their deathbed, this story's been told over and over again. Nobody's talking about how much money they had. Nobody's talking about what they achieved. They all wanted more time with their children, with their family, with their grandchildren, more time doing what they really believed and what they really loved. That's what everybody says. And people that we've all watched pass who were so angry and obsessed by their neighbors, and they can't get their head out of, they think their whole world revolves around everything that doesn't matter. They're so anxious by sports. They're so anxious by their neighbors. They're so anxious by everything in the world, or they're working at work to try to prove something and earn something. They're on this hamster wheel. At the end of the day, we're all gone. And that story is told over and over again, yet it's so easy to get caught up in. And for me, what happened is this. In 2011, when my life and world had all crashed down, I felt like I had a choice. And my choice was three things at that crossroads. Give up and end me. I'm over. I don't matter. I'm gone. I had my chance. I blew it in my 40s. I'm no good. Free the world of me. 1. 2, just go on, restart your life. Say, hey, it didn't work. Blame some people. Remake a new life. Or B, come back into the life I wanted, the life I had, face it. And when I did that, and I realized, and I found faith, and I found that I'm just small. I can't overpower this world, that I'm no different than everybody else, and I should just try to get the most out of life and give back. And when I did that, it was baby steps, because I didn't even understand what that meant, but it was so freeing. And I'm still there, and I've just grown deeper in it, and I've gotten happier with it. And guess what? Every study validates. Every person listening who's anxious, who's wondering, am I in the right spot? It's not really always about the spot you're in. It's about where you are. And when you can dig into your soul, you will unlock a peace. Every study validates that. And I'm here to validate it as a human living in it. And, I just quit worrying about things that I can't control. The end of me, look, I can get myself in better shape. There's things I can do, but my time, when it comes, it will come. But what I determined is make the most of what I can while I'm here. And it's a lot more enjoyable and gratifying. It's a lot more enjoyable and gratifying to just let go of blame and find a peace and go do some work,
Right. I always do, like I said, the experiences that we've had, and just being present and experiencing death up close with multiple people in our immediate family. I am a little, I scratch my head when there's somebody like in our community, or we know, that lives to this ripe old age of say 80s or even 90s, and really like is so respected and has lived, no, of course everybody's human, but has just lived in a life that has been full and given back, and just a well-rounded, successul life. And when you hear people say, it's just so sad,
right.
This person died,
When in
it's
fact,
so sad, and there's tears wept, and I don't know, I just feel like the experiences that we've had, or I've had, put like some glasses of a different shade on the way I see it, and think, it's not sad at all. It's just, that's amazing that this person
could endure so much, because there's so many things that happen when you see that person in the prime of, coming through their life. They experience things that none of us know, that were so hard, and they made it there, and that's so beautiful. And you're right. And
which I just wonder why our society creates this dynamic that's how we view death, which is all, big ideas, but that's the thing I love about like milestone birthdays, and I always love like the new year, because it's this time to just kind of reset and just take a minute and reflect, and
and make goals,
and remind yourself what your life is about, and like what you want to dig in on. And
I'm a goal maker. I'm an obsessive, like I have to, sometimes I can't get a picture of it, and I've learned to admit, like, I'm not sure. So I've been even through a couple of years where I would say, I would have some micro goals, because I was still trying to get my handle on the bigger picture of how can I fulfill this purpose. And so I agree with you. I like New Year's. I like a milestone birthday, because they're a good time to reflect, but it's how I talked in an episode not too long ago about how the studies show when we can, it like literally helps to write it down, but when we can when we vision our future, when we can get a picture and say, this is where I'm going, this is what I will march toward, we are much more likely to get there, or get even somewhere better, or get somewhere very close when we can do that. And so these milestones are a gift, in the sense of you get to look back, but you get to look forward and say, okay. It's like, I remember the first time we took the children to Disney World, and they were little, and there's like, I remember William was like, what are we going to do? Like, here it is. Here's this vast thing. Where might we start? What comes next? That's what this is. And you've got all these rides of adventure. And it's like, what do you get to do? What comes next? And I feel like that's where I am.
Would you say you've had any role models here, on earth, earthly role models, that you've seen the way that they've maybe overcome hardships, or the way they've just aged or thrived at not age 40, but
Sure.
like that maybe
Yeah.
did peak and did their best work in 50s and 60s? Do you have any?
That's I certainly have seen plenty of people that got started later and made impacts, but it's funny. I know I've said it on this podcast before, and I've said it in public. And I'm not putting pressure on him, but our son Hudson, our son, who's a good bit younger, has been a really good role model for me. And I don't want to, I always say, look, he's like all of us. He's imperfect. I'm not saying, but he's been a good role model for me in terms of, I watched him at 20 get into a crisis and fall off track. And I hear this from young people all the time. when they think they've messed up, or they'll like, I've messed up. I've messed it all up, they'll say. I'll talk to some young man, say, battling some mental health or substance misuse issue, and they've failed out of school, or they've had some crisis, or they've gotten arrested. I've messed it all up. There's no going back. I'm like, oh, if you only knew you haven't messed it all up. Well, for me, I felt that way in my 40s, and I'd had my fall and kind of restart before Hudson. I was just getting started and kind of getting my legs back under me. But I watched him kind of stand up in the face of what could have been two things: blame and shame. Could have been blame. You did this to me. The world did this to me. My family was all messed up. Why'd you do this? Now look what happened to me. The shame of, I messed it all up. But he stood back up on his feet. He went and got help. He stood back on his feet, and he took personal responsibility, and he went and worked at the pizza shop with pride. And then he's selling popsicles on the street with pride, and he's showing up and looking to us eye to eye. And I learned a lot from that. So it was not somebody in their 60s. It was somebody a lot younger than me, somebody very close to me. And I often think, well, I wonder how this would have gone had I not had that person there with me. And I would like to think, fine, I just know it helped. Just like people in recovery groups help one another. I will tell you that most of the people I know, have achieved things and retired or slowed down, but I'm different, and I know there are examples. There are, but most people I know have kind of been on the path of, I'm going to work, I will get to my 60s, I'll begin to slow down, and I'll retire. And I'm going in such a hard, different direction. And I didn't get there very easily, because I've really wrestled with doing that very thing, slowing down and just being okay. And I do want to say that there is a difference. I am okay. The period that I came to peace with slowing down and realizing what I've done is enough was very important. Because over the last couple of years, where I've spent a lot of time walking, meditating, thinking, and I haven't run on the hamster wheel. I've done speaking, I've written books, I've continued to dig into community work of trying to figure out what does my next move look like. And I learned patience in that. And you watch that, where I had opportunities to make some quick moves and I didn't. And I just got very comfortable with myself in being able to say, I don't have anything to prove. And man, was that freeing and I had to get to that point. I couldn't take a next step to try to do something big in my 60s if I didn't have peace with the fact that I have nothing to prove. If I felt like I still had something to prove, then I didn't think I should do it, because I felt like I would be running on a hamster wheel for the wrong reasons. And so this patience that you've seen has been me making sure, are you doing this because you feel like you have something to prove? Or do you just feel such joy and determination to try to go make a difference in the world? A year ago, a friend of mine, Clint, Clint, I was sitting with my friend Clint, who knew me in 8th grade, and who was fraternity brother. And then, but we've stayed close, but I don't see him all the time. But he's known me, and he watched that turmoil in my life show up in 8th grade. He's 1 year older. And he was so kind to me, he's probably said, 40 sentences over 30 years, but we're close. And it's just what a friend can do for you. He just said, David, I just want you to know you don't have anything to prove. You've done it, man. You've done it. And it was such a simple statement, but he knew what he was saying, and it was so freeing. And so for the past year since then, I really heard him. As much of a talker as I am, I listen a lot more than people will probably think. And so I was talking to him, but he said that. And I heard him. And I was so thankful. And so what I've tried to do over the last year as I approach 60 is I've worked just to make sure I don't have anything to prove. And if I did, I think I was just going to ease on into 60 and write a few more books and speak and just be okay, because that was going to be the wrong reason. But I came to a peace and a place that I realized I don't have anything to prove. If I've proven anything, that's over and done, and that doesn't matter anyway. But I'm here. And like an apprenticeship, I have some skills. Most CEOs, most leaders of movements, most things, you ask me, do I see? There are examples. You can Google online. I mean, somebody like, there are people that have written great books in their 70s. There's not a lot of them. There's not a lot. You'll find things like Colonel Sanders didn't franchise his, chicken empire till he was in his 60s. There's not a lot.
Well, sometimes, like for the role models, I find that like my teachers, people say, think of your teachers, all the teachers in your life. Sometimes my biggest teacher is the example I see in, say, in someone else or another situation, and I have this mental, I don't want to be that.
Right.
I don't want to go there. That's not who I want to be. I don't want to be perceived like that, and it's a very teaching moment, because I see that and it keeps me back on my path. We talk about aging and expectations, like you say, that you feel in your 40s. And just imagine, I know you see it, like for women, it's not only just the things you have to achieve and the expectations of where you're supposed to be in your 40s, then it's about how you're supposed to also look, and as you age. I'm talking about aging and how it's like, we can't age, we can't start getting older, we can't be moving through our natural journey of life, from baby to last breath. And it just goes against everything nature, but that's like what our society creates as this normal thing, and I look around and I see the struggle that pressure puts on a lot of women, and it's just
people don't want us to age. I'll say to people recently, like as I'm telling people in recent months, even, is they're starting to get a hint that the slumbering writer is awakening. David's about to make a move, and I'm coming strong, and I may fail, but I'm coming on strong and going to give it my best shot to do what I wanted to do before. And, we'll talk about that, but I just want to illustrate your point. And so sometimes I'll say to people, they'll ask me, well, what's inspired you? Look, I'm old. And they'll immediately, 100% of the time, based on what you said there, people will interrupt me and go, and they mean well, no, you're not old. I go, well, that's not true. Aging is real. If you don't think I'm old, you ought to see me trying to stay up until 9 o'clock at night. I'm telling you, I can't do it. I don't want to do it. And I feel it. If I stay up till 10 o'clock at night, I don't even feel right the next day. Sometimes I don't even feel right for 3 days.
Right.
And that's one thing. I could give you a lot more. But as many people who have reached this point of life know as well, physically I have aged and changed, but mentally and the studies on this are pretty clear. If you're blessed to not have dementia, and you get to this age, what happens in your mind is it becomes a lot sharper and clearer, because a lot of the distractions, once you mature and you make some peace with the world and you make some peace with yourself, these distractions kind of go away and you can see things so much more clearly. So in personality tests, which I was thankful the time that I worked within the university, I would have people, I'm sure they were, they'd hand things out departmentally, like here, there's multiple strength finder to others, Enneagram. And I was able to go do all of these personality tests, because you're sitting there on university time and somebody says, here, everybody take this. Well, okay, click, click, click. Well, you start learning about yourself. I am a top-line strategist. That's what the personality tests reveal. And if you had asked me what my top line was when I was younger, I'm not sure I would have tested that when I was younger. There might have been hints of it, but maybe with distractions, they weren't as clear. B, that's exactly right, and that's an area where I've always thrived. But now that I'm 60, physically I'm not the same, but mentally, as somebody who sees and enjoys strategy, I can just see it so much better than I could before. And I have more focus and ability to stay focused, to see it through, to be a dog with a bone, to not let the world push me away. Now, I can get frustrated when they push on me and push and push and push and doubt me, but I've learned to feel that and continue to evolve and listen and evolve the strategy and stay focused. And so 60 is just a gift. Aging is real, but there are some benefits in it. And so here I am at the dawn of it, and time and health and history will tell, though I'm certainly healthier and stronger and feel better than I've been in years, but whoever knows? But what I think and what I feel is that I'm called to do. I blew my 40s. I just blew it. I'm sorry to you. I'm sorry to talent left on the table. I don't have anything to prove, but I have valuable work to do as someone who can help storytell and align strategy to help and heal others.
So thinking of anything left, like goals, dreams, maybe left on the table that you still want to achieve?
Well, so I'm going to tell a short, powerful story that happened to me in, of all places, a Tuesday night in Meridian, Mississippi, that is a little strange. But it had such a powerful impact on me. This woman, I'm speaking at a school, and this will sound strange when you hear this. Like, really? I told you, but anybody listening. But I'm speaking at a school. Dear William had come out in 2021. This was that following spring, 2022. I'm speaking to parents and students at a small school in Meridian, Mississippi. It was a Tuesday night. It was dark. It was cold. I just remember thinking, this is kind of hard and lonely out on the road. I'd gone and checked in this. It was a nice hotel in downtown Meridian. I got a mediocre meal, salad at a chain restaurant, got there to speak. And I was getting better as a speaker, but I look back now and I could have been better. But I was there and I thought, these people have come here to hear me. I need to give them something honest, and I need to give them some hope. And I was kind of in my first stages of maybe pouring out a little more. And I just left everything I had, even if it wasn't that good, on the table. And then a line formed to talk to me after. I'm like, okay. And there was this lady older than me who was at the back of the line, and she waited, and that line took more than 45 minutes to work through. And she finally gets to me, and she is the last one. And I'm exhausted, and I'm sure she is on a Tuesday night waiting that late. And she sticks her hand out to me, and I shake it, and she squeezes tight, and she looks me in the eye, and she's got tears running down her face, And she says, "You're going to save the world." And I laughed out loud because that's so ludicrous. Seemingly. I kind of gave a guttural laugh. And I go, oh, thank you. And she squeezed my hand, and she's crying, and she leaned in, and she says, "I mean it. You're going to save the world." And she squeezed my hand. And I went from laughing to tears in my eyes. And I kind of turned and looked at her. And in an instant, I understood that we all can save the world. And that actually is my job. All this year, do I think I'm going to save the world? I don't need everybody to start worrying about me. But again, I talk a lot, but I listen. And she waited for that reason, because she wanted to tell me that. That's all she said to me. And I laughed, and she squeezed my hand and repeated it, and she leaned in so I would hear her. And I've been thinking on that. And so I fought with myself for so many years I came out of journalism school. Am I a reporter? Am I supposed to be a reporter? I had so much anguish over that. Well, maybe I'm supposed to be a columnist. People say, "Gosh, you write a pretty good column." But I don't know if I just want to be a columnist, because I need to do more than that. I just write a column, and I wrestle with that. And then I go in and I'll go work at a business, or maybe I'll come take this position at a university and put that label on me. And then I go, but I do more. I'm just diversified. I am a storyteller for a power of human good. And my job description is, as that woman said, it sounds so silly, it's perfectly suited for me, is to go save the world. I can't save the world. What it means is, can you wake up and put a little kernel in this vast place in a small way that leaves it better today than it was before you woke up, and as you go to bed, and while you're here, can you keep planting some of those seeds? And I realize that is my job description. I cannot put a quantifier on it. I am a storyteller. I write books. I speak. I craft strategy for, at the end of the day, what I'm about is community well-being. I care about community well-being. And that's doing the work that lady said. And so that's how I got there. That's just the craziest job description. It's a good one for me. And I know it sounds silly, but I will do it in a very small way. It's just get up and try to make a difference to improve people's lives.
So your career has morphed, through the years, and now you kind of settled into and consider yourself, which you were all along, a writer. So do you feel like your writing is going to change in this next decade that you're beginning?
Oh, that's such a great question, because I think my career in life as a writer, the struggle of that with some successes, some failures, I think that sums up what the work I'm aiming to do in my 60s better than anything. I will do my best work maybe times about 50 as a writer in my 60s. And I've been working on a book leading up to then, and I've changed how I do it. And I think that's symbolic of the life I'm embarking on in the 60s, which is I'm off the hamster wheel. I'm aiming for quality to make more of a difference. And maybe I'll write fewer books, but I will not leave anything on the table as to who they can reach and the impact they can have. I will deliver my greatest discipline ever as a writer, and I've done that over the past year in working for this next book to come. And I've displayed a patience that I've never had before, because I realize, I can go look on bookshelves and I can find a whole bunch of books I've written and a whole bunch of things, but how many of them have had the impact in the world that I want, And same thing on anything I do around other content and work. I'm just going to bring more patience to it, and whether it succeeds or not, that will be somebody else's determination. But I will leave nothing on the table in terms of I will bring the patience and I will bring the discipline to make it the very best it can be to have that impact. And I just didn't have that patience when I was younger. I was in such a hurry to try to prove something. I don't have anything to prove, so I'm going to instead take the time to try to better make a difference and to deliver something of quality. It's going to be interesting. I'm so glad. Stick around and keep listening to the David Magee Show podcast. You can see how the 60s will go. We'll air it all out here. I think they're going to go great. I appreciate you. It's fun. You met me at 18. Now I'm 60. You got to ask me questions. I hope we get to come back here at 70, because I'm not about longevity, but I will try to go to then, and you can question me again.
Sounds good.
It's the David Magee Show. She's Kent Magee. I'm David Magee. Check us out. You can follow us on social or sign up for my newsletter at davidmagee.substack.com. See you next time.